Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the Global Reality Radio Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another... Oh, that was weird. Coming in with a Satan voice inadvertently tonight. I wasn't planning on doing that. What the hell? Go away, Satan. Mind yourself now. We'll get to you in a bit. Let me intro the show. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. Goddamn Satan. Son of a bitch is always trying to fuck with things. As they say down here in the South. Yep, that's that goddamn Satan again. Yep. The other day I had me a flat tire, and after that I was going down the road and I got me a ticket. Yep. Yeah, it's a damned old Satan working his damned old evil again. I can't even help it. God damn, praise Jesus. That's really, that's how they talk down here. I'm not kidding. It's a fact. Yeah, thanks for being with us here. It's a Monday edition of the broadcast, January 23rd into Tuesday, January 24th, 2012. And it's a Monday, and we got jam-packed amount of news and information for you here tonight. And the stuff was being screwy again last night. I'm gonna have to get a new preamp. I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet. This one's did the job well for the past 6 or 7 years. Actually, I got a backup around here. I'll start using that because I used that one for a while and it sounded pretty good. I think this one's just had it. I've changed the tube out. I'm not going to put any more money in a $100 preamp. I just need, not when I can get, the one I want for like 200. So I'm just going to wait till I have the cash to get one of those. But it's not worth playing with anymore. John in the chat room is trying to help me out with some of this stuff, and we got a new tube in it, but it's still kind of being wonky, but nonetheless, we soldier on through technical issues and whatever have you. Thanks to everybody who tuned into the music show last night. We have a Sunday night show I'm doing now at 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I just play music and talk about music and that kind of thing. So that's been a lot of fun to do, and has really actually, since I've started doing that over the past couple of weeks, it's actually gotten me more focused and back into doing this stuff. Strange how that works, isn't it? You never know. Something completely unrelated sometimes can affect something else that you're doing in a positive way. And I think it certainly has done that, because it kind of gives me something else to do other than just all this research stuff, man. I tell you what, it really, really, really wears on you. It wears on your soul. It wears on your spirit. It wears on your psyche, everything. And so since I've been doing the music show over the past couple of weeks, it's kind of felt like there's been like something else in there to kind of balance it out. And one of the things of when you do this 24/7, 365, like somebody like myself does, you always yearn for those things that will reduce the burnout factor when it comes to doing this kind of stuff, day in, day out. And for me, I mean, really, for me, it's just the fact that there's always more to know really is the biggest thing keeps me from getting burnt out. But you know, you always just have to give yourself some downtime. At least give yourself a part of the day, you know, where you're just chilling out, maybe watching a movie or, you know, not really doing much anything because, you know, you value that time when you're, the other times when you're, you know, staying up all night and all morning and researching and reading and trying to keep your game up, you know, because they're changing the game on this stuff all the time and running audibles. And we're seeing a lot of stuff I've talked about here, which we'll get into tonight, that's starting to come to fruition, especially concerning the elections. It's just wild, crazy madness. And so, you know, you have to stay up with it and you have to stay current with it and you have to stay fresh with it. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. Because these guys don't take a day off. You know, that's the thing about these fuckers in charge, man. There's no, you know, the holidays, all that's ever formalities for these guys. These guys do this stuff. I mean, they're always on watch. So we have to be that way as well with what we're trying to do to combat them. And I think that we are starting to do a lot more damage. I think a lot more people are now finding out about the operations that are going on, not only in the United States of America, but throughout the world. And it's just such a delicate balancing act right now because, well, in a lot of ways, they're allowing a lot of this information to come out. You know, some of the stuff they, and no doubt, even what I expose helps them in the ways that I, you know, can't control. Because in a way, they want everybody to know the kind of stuff that I talk about. They want everybody to know it so that anger and that fear and those reactions from that will be channeled the way they want them to go, not the way you would proceed with that, you see? And so it's a very delicate balancing act when you get into this stuff because you have to make sure that your reactions and your emotions, because most people's emotions when they first find out about this stuff, everybody just gets mad. You know, you just get plain fucking mad. You know, whose ass I got to kick? Who do I got to beat? Who do I got to kill? You know, let's go fucking get some guys with some billy clubs and some fucking baseball bats and shotguns and let's go fucking do this old school and let's go take these bastards out. I mean, I can't tell you how myself, I felt that way. I can't tell you many other people I know that felt that way. And, you know, that's kind of your first reaction to it. And that's really what they're counting on. They're counting on that being your first reaction. And they're preying upon that. That's the thing. All these years of these big colleges and institutions and think tanks and the whole spectrum of human psychology in general, Tavistock Institute, all that stuff, they've been scientifically studying all the attributes of humankind and emotion, all this for a reason, so they can manipulate those things to control us. And that's really what they're saying. That's really what we're seeing now. We have to make sure that when we think about the information that we're learning, that we always keep our rational mind in check and keep it there and around. You do not want to let that emotional mind, that's not to say that you become cold and unemotional and have no emotional reaction whatsoever. My God, that's just as dangerous as, you know, being too emotional or being scared shitless. You know, having no emotion at all, because then you can't, you know, you can't act appropriately in that situation either. So you have to have that balance. It has to be balanced between your emotional side, which is, you know, kind of affects your fight or flight syndrome, and your rational side, you know. And they're, with all of this stuff that they're doing, they're allowing a lot of this information to come out now, and they want you to know. See, for years, when I first started researching this stuff, it was not like this, folks. They were not as out and open about as many things, rubbing it in our faces like they are now. The whole climate, the whole spectrum of what is admitted to is just, it's completely changed. And that's exactly why you have to know that this is an engineered campaign. I mean, like this, Ron Paul thing, we'll talk, a Rand Paul thing, TSA thing, totally a stage incident, 100%. Look at the timing of it. Look at the implications of it. Look at being right around the elections, all this. The greatest thing about the election cycle is that it's the highest form of theater in the United States of America that we produce. Higher than Broadway, higher than anything Hollywood pukes out, higher than the goddamn Super Bowl, higher than all that. The election cycles, that is the high drama that our country produces now. The problem with this high drama is, it's great entertainment. Fantastic fucking entertainment. You get to see mudslinging going on and shit talking and people's lives getting ruined and exposed and every little nook and cranny and fucking skeleton coming out of the closet. It's just, pure soap opera, mudslinging combined with the, testosterone of the WWF. So you rope them in with the soap opera type drama for the ladies, and then they've got, the testosterone pumping shit for the guys. Got to make sure you get all your bases covered there. And it's fantastic entertainment. But see, you know what else is fantastic entertainment? Rush Limbaugh. He's fantastic entertainment. You know who else is fantastic entertainment? Alex Jones. You know who else is fantastic entertainment? Jon Stewart. You know who else is fantastic entertainment? The other guy, Stephen Colbert. All those guys. Those guys are all fantastic entertainers. Fantastic. If you're just talking about the strictly the spectrum of entertainment, all those guys, fantastic entertainers. I tip my hat to those guys. But they're entertainers, ladies and gentlemen. They're not newsmen. They're not journalists. They're not investigators. They are not researchers. They are actors. They're not journalists. Those people don't present you the news. They're entertainers. They are there to steer you back to one corral or the other. Makes no difference which one to them. So long as, in the end, you get corralled back into one corner or the other. And in the end, that's what happens. The bottom line, I think, really is that if the current state of human consciousness stays at the place it is right now, it would be impossible to expect any changes in the status quo that we are currently experiencing on this planet and have been experiencing for some time. That's just a fact. You're just going to put, what was that movie I was watching the other night? Puncture, the one I suggested last week. Yeah. This big business lawyer guy in the movie says, guys talking about, exposing him for, the stuff that he'd done, the bullshit and all this stuff with these needles. And he says, guys like me, we're like trays at a cafeteria. You take one off the top, another one pops up right underneath it. And that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. That's exactly what happens with politicians and presidents and leaders. When you are talking about existing in a societal structure and in a culture where they control all perimeters of everything, they also control all perimeters of consciousness. We can't have a better situation on this planet than we have now with the current level of consciousness of all the people on the planet. It's not high enough. It's not raised up enough. And the only way that would happen would be something that would be so monumental, it would blow the mind of every living creature on the planet to the point they could no longer be lied to. And, everybody, of course, now, I'm always getting asked about the 2012 thing. And, my answer always is, I think it's going to be what we manifest. Well, that's what, why don't we manifest that? I'd like to manifest that. Something that would raise the consciousness. And I think that's indeed possible. I mean, we are, regardless of all the Mayan bullshit and whatever have you, or Zacharias Hitchens or any of that crap, regardless of that, the galactic alignment and the precession of the equinoxes, this is something that seems to have a lot of weight to it concerning consciousness shifts, concerning shifts in the actual evolution of humans. And that's what we're heading into. That's where we are now. And I think we have a lot to be very positive about and at least hopeful for. But you wouldn't know that looking at the media or looking at the culture. And every day that goes by of this new year, I start to feel more and more like there is something big and possibly even good around the corner. But if we all think it's something bad and negative and killer and deadly and apocalyptic, well, guess what? It could just turn into that. Because the power, the will of the human mind is that strong. We don't know how powerful and strong and how much we can actually do. Because the people who know this are these priest class minions and these people who have been the gatekeepers from time immemorial. As above, so below, as in the macrocosm, so in the microcosm. Why do you think that you have these low-level gatekeepers like Jones and any of these other mainstream media stooges? If you have those, and indeed you do, the law of the universe would dictate that there would have to be another level of that operating in much the same way, but in a much larger and much more grandiose and spooky and scary and controlling kind of way. And that's when you think about it like that, that's when you go, oh my God. These low-level gatekeepers, they're keeping the gate down here and minding the gate down here at the low levels, making sure you don't get to certain areas of information, or if you do, you're ridiculed for it. And then the high-level gatekeepers up here who control the lower-level ones are the ones who are gatekeeping the whole thing. The secret knowledge, the ancient texts, the ancient manuscripts, the ancient cuneiform tablets, records of technology and records of culture and things that were much older even at the times in which they were first brought to this planet. It really is insane. And man, oh man. You really see the whole thing in perspective that way when you look at the fact that, again, if you see something happening on a low level, there's something going up on the usually going up higher than that that's very similar to it. And I, just as I had told you and talked about, I've been saying for years now, a couple of years now, that there was going to be some very big time stuff surrounding the elections this time, and especially specifically with Ron Paul. And a couple of weeks ago, I had talked about and made a specific prediction about them, doing some vote fraud stuff, and then claiming, oh, Ron Paul was cheated, and then, using that to get everybody, riled up and wanting armed conflict and civil war and all this stuff. And guess what? It has begun. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's unbelievable for me, folks. I mean, I need to quit saying this stuff, because it seems like every time I say something, they do it. South Carolina's Attorney General detects voter fraud. South Carolina's Attorney General has notified the U.S. Justice Department of potential voter fraud. Attorney General Alan Wilson sent details of an analysis by the Department of Motor Vehicles to U.S. Attorney Bill Nettles. In a letter dated Thursday, Wilson says the analysis found 953 ballots cast by voters listed as dead in 71% of those cases. Ballots were cast between 2 months and 76 months after the people died. That means they voted up to 6 1/3 years after their death. The letter doesn't say in which elections the ballots were cast. The analysis came out of research for the state's new voter identification law. The U.S. Justice Department denied clearance of that law. So already we're seeing this, and already I was going around looking at some of the patriotard and patriot type websites and news websites and stuff today. My God, man. I mean, a lot of you out there probably already know this if you pay attention to it more than I do, but I hadn't paid attention to that stuff in so long. And I went and looked at some of these news websites that I used to look at, patriot type websites. It is unbelievable. And I'm not just talking about Alex Jones. I'm talking about a lot of different other ones. Even ones of people who don't particularly like Alex Jones. But it just seems every single website is, it's just negative, fear. It's actually worse. Now, alternative media websites, ladies and gentlemen, have actually gotten worse with their fear-mongering and their negativity than the goddamn mainstream media has. I have to declare it right now. It's a fact. I saw it for myself. You can see it for yourself. You go look around. I'm not kidding you. It's bad. And, I do monitor some of the stuff sometimes with Jones to see what he's saying, and I get some stuff for the movies and stuff like that. But I hadn't been monitoring these sites in so long, folks. And my God, it's like the fucking crazy people have taken over the nut house. Every patriotard website and news website out there, I mean, it has gotten worse. They are worse than the mainstream media with the fear mongering and the just doom and gloom bullshit. Every fucking article is, about how fucked we are. And this has been going on for a very long time. It's just scaremonger. How much of this stuff that these people scaremonger are talking about has actually ever affected you? Tell me. So many of these laws and bills and things that they pass, my God, if you ever even attempted to look at the things in the Patriot Act, it will blow your fucking nuts or your vulva off. If you actually go through it and look at it. I challenged myself with it one time and got so fucking worn out after like a week of going through it, I just quit. But there are so many things that they've had in the Patriot Act for years now that they've taken and recycled into House bills and legislative bills. And it's like they recycle this stuff and ultimately give them themselves the permission to do stuff they've already been doing, give them permission to do the same thing twice. It's ridiculous. And that's when I started thinking, they're doing this to scare the shit out of people. Because there are so many things when you go through the Patriot Act that, yes, it says it gives them the right to do if they wanted to do it, but then go and find a case anywhere where they've done it. There are none. I mean, I think they have really, really been pulling a fast one with a lot of this stuff. And it's like placebo, It's just mind-blowing to me that they pass all this stuff in the Patriot Act. People don't even read it, but they'll be happy to swallow some bullshit, that's fed to them on the news about it. In order for these people to win and go to the next level they are trying to take this thing to, they need the United States of America to have a mass armed revolt, and they need to be able to split this country right down the middle and allow foreign interests to come in and set up shop and have little territories of other countries in the United, Chinese area over here, Russian area over here. It scares me when I go look at these Patriot websites, dude. Oh my God. Because what happens if what happens if you're put in that situation? What happens if it pops off? What side do you go on? Because I don't want to be on either one of these asshole sides. I don't want to fight over here with the patriotards and the fucking crazy goddamn militiamen and these nutter fucking libertarian cracker paleo conservative cocksuckers, literal ass plunging motherfuckers. I don't want to go fight with them. I also don't want to go fight with these pinko commie lefty liberal New World Order fascist Fabian socialist motherfuckers either. I don't got a dog in this race. I hate both of these motherfuckers equally. But that's not how they're going to frame it, you see? So what happens? They put you in a position where you have to take a side on a fight you don't have a dog in the race of. Because how they're framing it doesn't represent you, because you see through the bullshit. I mean, it's gonna be some shit, man. And personally, I don't want to get caught up in it. I'd rather just leave this fucking country and never come back than to have to stay here and get caught up in, some left-right civil war where a lot of us who really know what's going on aren't being represented by either one of these things. We're going to be getting caught up in a side and have to fight for a side for our own survival for something that we don't believe in. And I won't do that. I'm not going to do it. Do I know what I would do? I don't. I don't. But I know what I won't do, and I won't do that. I'll renounce my citizenship in this fucking country in a heartbeat and go somewhere else. Somebody will take me. I'll go to Canada. Fuck it. Yeah, find me a Canadian bride. Any single Canadian women want to get hitched? Because if you marry one, then, boom, automatic citizenship. Hey, I'm willing. I mean, I'll get hit. We don't even have to like each other. It's cool. You don't have to blow me or anything. You don't even have to let me put the tip in. I mean, nothing at all. We can just be cool. But if you want to get married for the sake of getting me into the country, I'm down. Let's do that shit. But if you want me to eat the pink taco, I'm gonna at least get $100 off of you. You're gonna at least have to take me to see a movie or something. You know what I'm saying? If that's cool. No, but really, I mean, I don't want any part of either one of those sides. And well, that's what I'm trying to do here. That's what that's why I've made. Go watch Secret Volume 1 if you've never seen it. Go watch the part about the vote fraud stuff. And you'll see these CMP clowns that. Did you hear Ron Paul got endorsed by the head of the CIA? Oh, that's nice. His CMP buddy, Paul Craig Roberts, wrote an article about him, too. More on Ron Paul. I'm prune face. Paul Craig Roberts. Fucking prune face. I thought your ass was going to retire by now. You had to stick around. Fucking prune face. And yeah, of course, on the Daily Paul website, already, here we go. South Carolina vote results will be invalid. I'm not expecting Ron Paul to have great results in South Carolina, not because he has a lack of potential there, but because the true voting result will be impossible to be confident of. All of South Carolina's votes will be taken and tallied by electronic software with no paper record. And he came in fourth. And so, yeah, there's, they're already the major basic. Ron Paul should drop out, blah, 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 blah. I mean, they're framing this. What I'm concerned with as well here is I'm concerned with something I don't think gets talked about enough that they did during the last elections with Ron Paul. And I just started my show, so I remember this well when this happened, but I don't really hear a lot of people talking about it. But it's an absolute fact. After the last Ron Paul campaign, and a lot of you remember the way that went, with him choosing to, I'm going to run an educational campaign right in key battleground states. The worst, a fucking second grader wouldn't have made a decision that bad. It's like, the guy throwing the fight, you could just tell he was throwing the fight. But what happened? Well, after Ron Paul dropped out, Ron Paul comes out and endorses none other than Chuck Baldwin for the third party nomination. Alex Jones follows suit quickly there behind. And all of a sudden, all the people that supported Ron Paul started donating mass amounts of money in the same way they were donating to Ron Paul to Chuck Baldwin. Now, that's a fact. And let me tell you something about Chuck Baldwin. He is the protege of Jerry Falwell. He is one of the top Christian Reconstructionists in the United States of America, folks. I mean, and think about that. With the support that they've gotten behind Ron Paul this time, if they were to pull that up all over again, tank the campaign, Ron Paul drops out, then goes to them in front of the media and says, I'm endorsing Chuck Baldwin as the third party candidate. Chuck Baldwin would have, because Jones even had a money bomb for the Chuck Baldwin campaign. It's a fact. He's CMP to the hilt all the way across the board. In fact, there used to be, me and a radio host I used to do radio shows with back in the day, Michael Vale, we used to, when we first started researching CMP stuff, before Chuck Baldwin did his campaign for president from the third party ticket, there used to be a bunch of websites that talked about Chuck Baldwin being a Council for National Policy member. And right before his campaign started, they scrubbed it, dude. Wiped it all. Hell, there used to be stuff that talked about Ron Paul connected to the CMP. That got wiped off the web before his last election as well, or the last elections as well. So, that's another concern of mine here is that, and I thought last time when they did, I said, my God, I can't believe I didn't see that coming. That was a sneaky thing to do. So essentially what I'm saying is that it could be that Ron Paul, again, they did this last time, that Ron Paul's kind of like, he's like the teasing stallion. He's the teasing stallion. He goes in there and gets the mayor all fucking, rip-roaring and ready to go and ready to fucking be penetrated. And then right at the last second, when he's about to blow, they yank him out and put in the big stud. And, it's a disgusting analogy, but they ran that up last time. Think about it. Chuck Baldwin is one of those, he's a pastor. He's connected to the old right of the Republican Party. He's also connected to Alex Jones and that whole end of it, GCN. He's the perfect Trojan horse. Because now that Ron Paul has gotten some legitimate respect, if he was to, drop out and give his endorsement to Chuck Baldwin, boom, that'd be a huge thing. And my God, folks, these Christian Reconstructionists. You want to talk about suck Satan's cock? You want to talk about priest class running the show? And if you don't like it, we'll chop your fucking head off and we'll do it in the name of the Lord. That's these motherfuckers. And I just, I don't know that they're going to run that again. They may be something bigger than that. I don't know. But all I'm saying is I think it's important. I don't think it's talked about enough. I think it's something we got to look at. They did it last time. They've ran a lot of the same things similarly this time during the Ron Paul campaign. The media has ran a lot of the same things the exact same way they ran it last time. So seeing those patterns and seeing those connections, it does make me wonder if, they may do that again. And I just thought that was brilliant. I was like, here we go. They use Ron Paul as a teasing stallion. They get him to rev everybody up behind the issues. Then he gives a public endorsement to Chuck Baldwin, who is I mean, my God, you want to talk about priest class knob slobber. And where are they having the Republican National Convention this year? Florida, right? Tampa Bay? If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's where Chuck Baldwin has his ministry. I believe it's somewhere very close to there. My website where this broadcast originates from is theglobalreality.com. That's www.theglobalreality.com. And there you'll find the links to listen to the stream. You'll find the tab to buy my newest film, The Secret Volume 2. This film, you know, and the first one now, right now, during this election cycle, are more important than they've ever been since I've made either one of them. They're more, right now is the time that this information needs to be spread to people. So thanks to everybody out there who's bought Blu-rays and DVDs and the rest of that stuff. And please make copies and spread those around to people and let's get this thing out there. If you haven't bought any yet, buy one, buy two, buy three, buy a DVD Blu-ray pack, buy whatever. But please go there, theglobalreality.com, and get it. Because, I mean, right now, folks, this is they're pulling the stuff that I've been warning you about for years, man. I mean, don't you think that that warrants at least trying? That's why it's just, you know, again, that's why it's so important that you support our work and what we're doing and buy the stuff from us. So we can put it back into the fire and continue to do things here. Let's see. If you want to send an email anytime, you can send comments, questions, research, anything of that nature. globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. Love to have emails during the show, after the show, before the show, whenever. So send those over, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. And we are having our 2012 kickoff fundraiser. We've got about a week to go on the Chimney Bear. We need to meet that goal. It'd be perfect if we can meet that by the end of the week. But please help us out if you can so we can get the bills paid for the month and also get some stuff done with the next film and get out and go and cover some of these things I've got planned to cover. I don't want to tell you too much here on air. I want to keep some of this stuff a secret. But, yeah, it's going to... We're reaching the point where... you know, we just have to go all in on this stuff. All cards on the table, all the chips in, go all in. And that's what I'm trying to do with your help. So, biggest solar storms at 2,500 way will peak Tuesday. And it'll be interesting to see the effects this will have, both on you know, conscious and subconscious of all of us. Fast on the heels of a solar storm that delivered a glancing blow over the weekend, triggering bright auroras in Canada and Scandinavia, the sun released an even more energetic blast of radiation and charged plasma overnight that could disrupt GPS signals in the electrical grid on Tuesday, especially at high latitudes, space weather experts warned Monday. Already, the storm could be affecting satellite communications as streams of radiation from the sun bounce across the Earth's magnetic field, which extends above the surface into space. With the radiation storm in progress now, satellite operators could be experiencing trouble, and there are probably impacts as well to high-frequency radio communications in polar regions. Said Doug Bisecker, a physicist at the Space Weather Prediction Center, part of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in Boulder, Colorado. So the storm will peak Tuesday when a speeding cloud of plasma and charged particles blast past Earth, distorting the planet's magnetic field with impacts possibly ranging as far south in latitude as Texas and Arizona. I want to go see some goddamn auroras. Who wants to go drive out to the desert with me this week? Let's go. Fuck it. We expect moderate to potentially strong geomagnetic storming that can cause pipeline corrosion effects and power grid fluctuations. Pipeline corrosion effects? That's strange. NASA scientists predict that the storm will peak at about 9 a.m. Tuesday, although it could peak up to 7 hours earlier or later, said Michael Hess of NASA's Space Weather Laboratory at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt. The storm is expected to continue through Wednesday. It's not going to be a catastrophe, but there could be noticeable geomagnetic current induced on the electrical grid. The storm began with a burst of X-rays shooting out of a sunspot, the same trouble spot that generated the previous storm about 11 p.m. Sunday. A huge explosion of plasma, which scientists call a coronal mass ejection, then followed. The giant plasma cloud pushed an advancing wave of energized protons at the Earth, and that wave front is now triggering the radiation storm in progress in the atmosphere. And also, I would say, triggering a bunch of whack-ass crazy weather around the world as well. There's one you can file under the, yeah, we've known that for years, you dumb shit category. Magic mushrooms trips point to long-acting antidepressant drugs. Oh, yeah, didn't know that. The brains of people tripping on magic mushrooms have given the best picture yet of how psychedelic drugs work. And British scientists say the findings suggest such drugs could be used to treat depression. Well, that was fucking loud. 2 separate studies into the effects of psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, show that contrary to scientists' expectations, it does not increase, but rather suppresses activity in areas of the brain that are also dampened with other antidepressant treatments. Psychedelics are thought of as mind-expanding drugs, so it has commonly been assumed that they work by increasing brain activity, said David Nutt of Imperial College London, who gave a briefing about the studies on Monday. But surprisingly, he found that psilocybin actually caused activity to decrease in areas that have the densest connection with other areas. These so-called hub regions of the brain are known to play a role in constraining our experience of the world and keeping it orderly, he said. We now know that deactivating these regions leads to a state in which the world is experienced as strange. In the first study, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences Journal, 30 volunteers had psilocybin infused into their blood while they were inside magnetic resonant image scanners, which measured and changed in brain activity. Jesus Christ, they just fucking mainlined that shit into them? Fuck! They didn't even have to chew the nasty fuckers up? No, this is a hospital. We're not chewing magic mushrooms in here. Here. We're just going to shoot you up with magic mushrooms. Christ. Yeah, I bet you trip balls like that. Fuck. Probably, oh, Jesus. Yeah, I bet it does treat depression. Christ. Well, I mean, yeah. Eating a handful out of some grain-fed cow shit, ain't gonna do nothing like mainline that shit. Jesus Christ, these fuckers are out of their mind. Who in their goddamn mind mainlines psilocybin? Tie me off, dude. Shoot me up. Oh, dude, you guys are doing heroin? Hell no, man. We ain't doing heroin. We're doing mushrooms. We're shooting that shit. Ha! That's just fucking maniacal. So yeah, it works like antidepressants. Yeah, when you mainline fucking psilocybin. Imagine that. Wow. Thank you, fucking Captain fucking Obvious. Oh, gee, we found that when you shoot somebody up with 10 cc's of psilocybin, they don't give a shit about anything anymore. Yeah. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. TSA turns away Senator Rand Paul at airport checkpoint. I'm not even going to cover that. Op. Yeah, it's what it is. It's an op. You know it, I know it. No sense in fucking beating that dead horse anymore. Davos elites. That's right. The Davos World Economic Forum is going down. Guess what they're talking about? Reforming that outdated capitalism. So here we go. Remember that monetary system Hitler wanted to set up? Yeah, well, here we go. We're heading towards it. Russian scientists claim signs of life spotted on Venus. Now, this is very interesting because a few years ago, I did a few pieces on several different shows about terraforming of Venus and these projects to terraform the surface of Venus. And, of course, what's his name? Carl Sagan had discussed that possibility as well. The Indo-Asian News Service, which, very well could be a disinfo website. This is a mainstream news article here. This is from the Daily Caller, and Yahoo News. But anytime you see those websites, the Indo-Asian news things, almost always those are CIA disinfo ops. So bear in mind that this could very well be an intelligence agency operation and a smokescreen for something else. And in my opinion, yes, that is indeed what it is. I think this is to cover. Well, I mean, look, you guys have all seen pictures of Venus before, right? I mean, you've seen, what have they always told us? What have they always told us that Venus was like this big, with the pictures they used to have in the science books, remember? Was like this green, murky, it looked like Dagobah from Star Wars. Green with a milky white, or no, actually it looked like a glass of absinthe. That's really what Mars, I always remember Mars looking like in all the books I used to see, but I know it's a gigantic link, but that's all it gave me. It's in the chat room. Click on that. And that's a picture from this article of what Venus supposedly looks like now. I don't recall Venus being blue, looking like Earth, covered in water with like a landmass there in the middle that looks like a continent. I don't recall Venus ever looking like that. Do you? I mean, that's just strange. It says this photo of Venus was taken by the Galileo spacecraft solid-state imaging system. I think this is a total disinfo article that's been planted to to hide the fact that it's been terraformed. I don't ever recall Venus ever being blue. I mean, it's supposed to be this murky, gaseous, very unruly planet for life. Leonid Kostafamali, an astronomer based at the Space Research Institute of Russia's Academy of Sciences, analyzed photographs taken by a Russian landing probe during 1982 during a mission to explore the heavy acid-clouded planet. Venus is roughly the same size as Earth, but it has a thick atmosphere dominated by carbon dioxide. With an atmospheric pressure 92 times Earth's, a volcano-riddled surface. I always thought planets, when they were blue, that meant there was existence of oxygen and water, but that's just my dumbass public school educated self, that just assumes that if something's blue, especially when it's a planet or something that's water, sorry about that. The planet has never been considered a serious target of research into the possibility of extraterrestrial life. But in his article published in the magazine Solar System Research, he says that the Russian photographs depict objects resembling a disk, a black flap, and a scorpion. What if we forget about the current theories about the non-existence of life on Venus? Let's boldly suggest that these objects are morphological features would allow us to say that they are living. Other research suggests that liquid water may have once covered Venus, but scientific consensus suggests that there have been no oceans there for at least 2 billion years. So this is a very interesting operation and very interesting article. Seems that it's been mirrored in several other different articles today. So this is something they're pushing pretty hard, I guess, today. And in this one, there's actually a picture of this thing that they call the scorpion life form. And if this thing is moving around on the surface, and you were going to see this thing, that would mean this thing's giant. Like there's big ass monsters down there or something. Maybe they've been planting a lot of trees over the years down there or something. Well, what Carl Sagan talked about was these rockets or these drones that would go and inject, that would basically spray and inject the entire planet of Venus's atmosphere with algae. And that the algae would turn the carbon dioxide planet into, carbon, water, and oxygen. So, maybe that's very well I remember that was in a science book when I was in like the third grade. They said by 2010 or something, we'd be going and having vacations on Venus. Wild stuff. Ancient Jewish scrolls found in northern Afghanistan. This is pretty interesting. We've got antiquities floating around yet again. A cache of ancient Jewish scrolls from northern Afghanistan that has only recently come to light is creating a storm among scholars who said the landmark find could reveal an undiscovered side of medieval Jewry. I love that word, Jewry. Don't commit any Jewry against me, motherfucker. The 150 or so documents dated from the 11th century were found in Afghanistan's Samagadan province and most likely smuggled out. A sorry but common fate for the impoverished, war-torn country's antiquities. Israeli emeritus professor Shaul Shaked, who has examined some of the poems, commercial records, and judicial agreements that make up the treasure, said while the existence of ancient Afghan Jewry is known, their culture was still a mystery. Here, for the first time, we see evidence and we can actually study the writings of this Jewish community. It's very exciting. Well, eventually, that's another thing people will find out. People will find out that, Sephardics and Jews and Muslims and all this, these people came from are of the same bloodlines. I mean, some people think that going and killing, as Eric Prince would say, laying hotchies out on cardboard, is somehow different and not the same thing as what Hitler and the Nazis did. It's absolutely the same thing. They're offing the same people. But they'll just give us this divide and conquer reason. Oh, they must have been smuggled out. No. There's a reason why there were ancient Jewish scrolls in northern Afghanistan. I mean, I'm starting to think more and more from reading all this Sitchin stuff that's what we've seen. That's why these certain signs of these bloodlines are wiped out. It's like these different, the Enlilites and the Enkyites and these different people that went around set up different shops. It's like they're still warring. Their factions are still warring today through different races around the planet. I mean, haven't you always felt like always kind of thought that that's what we are, or some intergalactic chess pawns in some intergalactic chess game? It does kind of feel that way. Dwarfed at World Trade Center. 80-story office buildings could be capped at just 7 floors thanks to a weak economy. You're not going to believe this. Well, actually, let me take that back. You will believe this, especially when you know who's involved. Lucky Larry. So let me get this straight. Lucky Larry Silverstein gets all his money, gets all the money collected from the record insurance policy he took out right before 9/11 happened. If I had the kind of luck this guy has, I'd be fucking sleeping at the goddamn casino. I wouldn't even have a house. I would sleep in the hotel and pay for that permanently with all the money I would rake in from hitting the casino. Because this guy's got a hot hand. Just happened to have the foresight to take out a record insurance policy right before 9/11. So he collects his money, but now he's saying, well, we can't get any tenants. We can't find tenants to rent the space. So even though I got my money for, all how many towers were in the complex? 7 or 8. So even though I got all the insurance money from all the towers, I'm only going to pay for a smaller tower to be put up, and the rest of the money is going to stay with my company. And that's it. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to pocket the rest of it, folks. This guy, I hate to have to use this analogy, but it's absolutely true. Larry Silverstein is trying to Jew us out of the proper rebuilding of the World Trade Center. I mean, my God, that's exactly what it is. He got all that money from that insurance policy. Now the motherfucker is going to try and Jew us out of an 80-story building and replace it with one that's 7 stories. You couldn't just knock it down to 40 or 50, maybe even 30. You had to go all the way with the jewelry and take it all the way down to just 7 floors from 80. My God, that's pretty goddamn Hebrew. A skyscraper planned to tower 80 stories at the World Trade Center site could become a 7-floor dwarf because of developer Larry Silverstein can't find tenants to rent the space. Oh, I wonder why. The project at 3 World Trade Center was supposed to complement 1 World Trade Center, which, yeah, exactly. Well, they already knocked it down from 2 towers to 1. You're going to tell me this is just a coincidence, too? We want our Twin Towers back. How about you rebuild what was already there? No, we're just going to build one big Osiris cock that, by the way, is 1,776 feet tall. Brr. Throw that right in your face. I forgot about that. So, yeah, I mean, he's totally Jewing this thing. But now the building will likely be capped at just 7 floors of retail stores, a far cry from the plush high-rise office complex that would have been the 4th tallest building in New York. Cranes New York reports that Silverstein is prepared to halt construction of 3 World Trade Center buildings if he cannot line up a major tenant soon. The trouble comes from a deal he struck in 2010 with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which owns nearly all of the World Trade Center site. He must raise $300 million in private investments and pre-lease 400,000 square feet of space at about 10 stores before the Port Authority will help him with public financing to complete the building. However, the sluggish American economy and the financial crisis in the European Union has depressed the commercial real estate market in New York City because of 9/11. My God. So, these clowns caused this, and now they're going to put, now that they got the money, I mean, this is classic gangster fucking tactics, isn't it? They blow these fucking buildings up. They collect the insurance money. The event of 9/11 goes on to cause and be one of the major factors in this thing happening. And this worldwide crisis. And then they claim, oh, well, because of the economy, we can't build anything bigger because we can't get any tenants. That's because they're pricing these things, the occupancy out of your average company's price range. Because anytime it's a new building, especially when you have something of that magnitude, how much it costs to rent space in it goes up above whatever the highest is already in that city. Absolutely unbelievable fucking logic from these clowns. Man, oh man, oh man. Well, I need to take a break. I've been going for over like an hour here, and I need a breather. So we're going to take a break, come back, get into some more news for you here tonight. We'll also be reading from The End of Days by Zachariah Sitchin. And yeah, man, it's all right. Back here with you on the show. This is the Global Reality Monday edition of the broadcast. Thanks for being with us here tonight for another late night Moonbat edition. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. That's TheGlobalReality.com. And you can also find the chat room there. It's good to see everybody in the chat room hanging out and talking it up tonight. So big shout out to everybody in there. Go to the chat room and hang out in there with other people. Real, actual people. Documentaries are up there as well. And all my other documentaries, all my clips, films, all that kind of stuff are at the website. And there's a books tab up there now. And one of our listeners, as a result of everybody's up in arms about the SOPA stuff, and yet they're just they're already taking down websites without due process. It's like, I mean, that's why I don't get behind these. You know what? That's why you never hear me up here parading and championing these big issues that are in the. I know some of you have noticed that. And I'm glad that you guys don't give me any shit for that, because you're smart enough to know it's all horseshit. I'm really lucky to have an audience that's as intelligent as the audience that we have. Because, a lot of people do that. They jump. I mean, how many of these Patriot and Truther tards jump behind the Occupy thing? My God. And that's exactly what they want. And these are all these, they never bring up the issues we bring up. They bring up the issues they want you to bring up and talk about, you see. And I just can't stress enough. I didn't realize. I knew this stuff was big, and I knew it had far-reaching implications. But when I first started finding out about the CMP and the secret right and all this stuff, I had no idea, and none of us did or could have at that time, because everything hadn't progressed the way it has now. That it would be as important as it is right now in 2012. I mean, this information is as important right now as it ever has been, and to have this not be in the conversation, to me, would just be a tragedy. And by the way, I have some good news and some bad news on getting it up on. I had some listeners that had some interest in talking about maybe trying to help me get it up on iTunes and Netflix, which would just it'd give millions of people, folks. It would give us access to millions of possible people to watch the film. That's what it would give us. And I had found a place to do it through Distributor, and I talked about it before, but their rules before, it was like $3,000 to get it done. You only got to pay $39 up front, and then or $37. Now it's $39, and then if you get accepted, then you pay it or whatever. Well, that's not the way it is now. Now you have to have, but that's the bad news. The good news is it's not $3,000. It's only $1,600. I say only, but that's hell, that's half of what it was before. So it's $1,600. But the bad news is you have to have it all up front. But so you pay them their $1,600. And then you send them your material, and then if everything's a go and they can go forward with it, then and Apple accepts it, then it's up and put up there. But I went and read all the fine print on it. The one thing I saw in the fine print, I normally don't read fine print, so that was kind of a big thing for me. I went through and read the fine print, and it actually said in there that Apple could actually approve your video, and then later on at a certain point, if they found certain things in there that they didn't think could be put out there or whatever, or did or wasn't it made it more sound like technical things, that they could, Apple, even though they approved it, they could still take $1,000 of your money, and still your movie might not be up there. They could still disapprove it and still take $1,000 of your $1,600. So the way that the fine print makes it sounds like a gamble, but I went and tried to find any examples of people that's happened to, and I couldn't find any examples of people that's happened to. And the Distributor website that does it, that's why you're paying that much for it, because they ensure that you get it. So yeah, that's good news. So $1,600, and there's a possibility that and the cool thing about it is you get 100% of your royalties. So, my thing about it is, I would even be willing to pay somebody back if I could just get the money up front. The only problem is I don't know if I wouldn't be guaranteed I'd even make $1,600 worth back. But, I'd be willing to try, you know what I mean? I'd be willing to at least, share the profits with somebody, if somebody wanted to, if it ended up going through and we got it up there. But it would just be an opportunity to get this, because, if you get one up there, I'm sure you could get another one up there very easily, but it would just give this information an opportunity to reach a proper audience without a distribution vehicle like iTunes and Netflix has. It's just up to luck and chance and your own, your own publication of your own work, whether or not people see it or not. And to be honest with you, with all my experiences making film and stuff, folks, it's just, I don't have the power to get my work on my own out to the appropriate number of people that need to see it. So, and to be honest with you, there's none of the other stuff I've made up to this point, up to the Secret Volume 2, has been worthy of that. This film is definitely worthy of that. It's definitely worthy to be up there on that. So, between that and between the rest of the goal for the Chipping Banner for the month to pay the bills and to go out and shoot some footage for the next film, the Buried Civilizations film. That's our goals right now. So I think overrouting.com, we don't have commercials, we don't have advertising, we don't have sponsors. Everything we do here and everything we're able to do here is a result of our audience. And we need all the help we can get, folks. Let's man the troops. If you can help us out, if you can make a large donation, a small donation, whatever you can, please help us out right now. This is the most crucial time there's ever been for my work, ever. Right now. And I can't say it again. That right now is the most important, most crucial time for my work there's ever been. Because we have a chance of actually affecting things here. You realize that? This movie has a chance to actually affect things. To sway whether or not people actually buy into this militia, patriotard, Alex Jones, let's have ourselves a armed conflict and, do like the founding fathers did. We have the ability and we have the ammunition to be able to sway that one way or the other and to keep that possibly from happening. If we can get people to look at this information, if we can get people to see who these people really are, we have a chance to keep that from happening, folks. When they realize they're being led into another rat trap by the same people they think they're fighting against. Oh, man. Yeah, that's all the news I feel like doing tonight. Let me get to my reading section here. Just give me just a second to get this out. We are going to be continuing our series of reading from Zechariah Sitchin's The End of Days. Let me get to it real quick. And here we go. Chapter 5, Countdown to Doomsday. Uh-oh. Feel like it's going to get interesting now, huh? The disastrous 21st century BCE began with the tragic and untimely death of Ur-Nammu in 2096 BCE. It culminated with an unparalleled calamity by the hand of the gods themselves. In 2024 BCE, the interval was 72 years, exactly the precessional shift of 1 degree. And if it was just a coincidence, then it was one of a series of coincidental occurrences that were somehow well coordinated. Following Ur-Nammu's tragic death, the throne of Ur was taken over by his son Shulgi. Unable to claim the status of a demigod, he asserted in his inscriptions that he was nevertheless born under divine auspices. The god Nenar himself arranged for the child to be conceived in Enlil's temple in Nippur through a union between Ur-Nammu and Enlil's high priestess, so that a little Enlil, a child suitable for kingship and throne, shall be conceived. That was a genealogical claim not to be sneezed at. Ur-Nammu himself, as earlier stated, it was 2/3 divine, since his mother was a goddess. Though the high priestess, who was Shulgi's mother, is not named, her very status suggests that she too was of some godly lineage. For it was a king's daughter who was chosen to be N2, and the kings of Ur, starting with the first dynasty, could be traced back to the demigods. That Nenar himself arranged for the union to take place in Enlil's temple in Nippur was also significant. As previously stated, it was under Ur-Nammu's reign that for the first time the priesthood of Nippur was combined with the priesthood of another city, in this case with the one in Ur. Much of what was happening in and around Sumer at the time has been gleaned from the date formulas, royal records in which each year of the king's reign was noted by the major event that year. In the case of Shulgi, much more is known, for he left behind other short and long inscriptions, including poetry and love songs. These records indicate that soon after he had ascended the throne, Shulgi, perhaps hoping to avert his father's fate on a battlefield, reversed his father's militant policies. He launched an expedition to the outlying provinces, including the rebel lands, but his weapons were often made of trade, peace, and his daughters in marriage. Deeming himself to be a successor to Gilgamesh, his route embraced the two destinations of that famed hero: the Sinai Peninsula, where the spaceport was, in the south, and the landing place in the north. Observing the sanctity of the fourth region, Shulgi skirted the peninsula and paid homage to the gods at its boundaries at a place described as a great fortified place of the gods. Moving northward west of the Dead Sea, he paused to worship at the place of bright oracles, the place we know as Jerusalem, and built there an altar to the god who judges, usually an epitaph of Utu or Shamash. At the snow-covered place in the north, he built an altar and offered sacrifices. Having thus touched base with the reachable space-related sites, he followed the Fertile Crescent, the arching trade and migration east-west route dictated by geography and water sources, then continued southward in the Tigris-Euphrates plain back to the southern Samir. When Shulgi returned to Ur, he had every reason to think that he had brought to gods and people alike peace in our time. To use a modern analogy, he was granted by the gods the title High Priest of Anu, Priest of Nanar. He was befriended by Utu, Shamash, and was given the personal attention of Ishtar, boasting in his love songs that she granted him her vulva in her temple. This fool wrote a love song about Ishtar granting him her vulva. I'm going to start using that. Excuse me, miss. Yes, I was just wondering if you would mind granting me your vulva. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. Just be really polite about this. Instead of walking up, give me some ass, bitch. But yes, I was just wondering if you would grant me your vulva. Thank you. You know what grant means? That means you don't have to give it back. But while Shulgi turned from affairs of state to personal pleasures, the unrest in rebel hands was continuing. Unprepared for military action, Shulgi asked his Elamite ally for troops, offering its king as a reward for one of his daughters in marriage, and the Sumerian city Larsa as a dowry. A major military expedition employing those Elamite troops was launched against the sinning cities in the west. The troops reached the fortified place of the gods at the fourth region's boundary. Shulgi in his inscriptions boasted of victory, but in fact soon thereafter he started to build a fortified wall to protect Samir against foreign incursions from the west and from the northwest. The date formulas called it the Great West Wall, and scholars believe that it ran from the Euphrates to the Tigris rivers north of where Baghdad is situated now. Oh, where did I leave off? The date formulas call it the Great West Wall, and scholars believe that it ran from the Euphrates to the Tigris rivers north of where Baghdad is situated nowadays, blocking to invaders the way down the fertile plain between the two rivers. It was a defensive measure that preceded the Great Wall of China, which was built for similar reasons almost 2,000 years ago. See, now that's very interesting. The idea of building these fortified walls. That very well could be what some of these structures like the rock wall are. In 2048 BC, my God, they found giant skeletons around these things. Give me a break. In 2048 BCE, the gods led by Enlil had enough of Shulgi's state failures and personal dolce vita, determining the divine regulations he did not carry out. They decreed for him the death of a sinner. We do not know what kind of death it was, but it is a historic fact that in that year he was replaced on the throne of Ur by his son Amar Sin, of whom we know from the inscriptions that he launched one military expedition after another to quell a revolt in the north, to fight an alliance of 5 kings in the west. As in so much else, what was happening had root causes going back, sometimes way back to earlier times and events. The rebel lands, though in Asia and thus domains in the Israelite lands of Noah's son Shem, were inhabited by varied Canaanites, offspring of the biblical Canaan, who, though descended of Ham and thus belonging to Africa, occupied a stretch of Shem's lands, that the lands of the west along the Mediterranean coast were somehow disputed territory, and also indicated by ancient Egyptian texts regarding the bitter contest between Horus and Seth that ended in aerial battles between them over the Sinai and the same contested lands. It is noteworthy that in their military expeditions to subdue and punish the rebel lands in the west, both Ur-Nammu and Shulgi reached the Sinai Peninsula, but turned away from that fourth region without entering it. The prize there was a place called Tilman, the place of the missiles, the site of the post-diluvial spaceport of the Anunnaki. When the Pyramid Wars ended, the sacred fourth region was entrusted to the neutral hands of Ninmah, who was then renamed Ninarshag, Lady of the Mountain Peaks. But actual command of the spaceport was put in the hands of Utu Shamash, here shown in a winged dress uniform, commanding the spaceport's Eaglemen. That, however, appeared to change as the struggle for supremacy intensified. Inexplicably, various Sumerian texts and god lists started to associate Tilman with Marduk's son, the god Insag Nabu. Enki was apparently involved in that, for a text dealing with the affair between Enki and Anarchic states that the two of them decided to allocate the place to Marduk's son. Let Insag be the lord of Tilman, they said. The ancient sources indicate that from the safety of the sacred region, Nabu ventured to the lands of cities along the Mediterranean coast, even to some Mediterranean islands, spreading everywhere the message of Marduk's coming supremacy. He was thus the enigmatic sun man of the Egyptian and of the Akkadian prophecies, the divine son who was also a sun man, the son of a god and of an earthling woman. The Enlilites understandably could not accept such a situation, and so it was that when Amar Sin ascended to the throne of Ur after Shulgi, the targets and strategy of the Ur Third military expeditions were changed in order to reassert Enlilite control over Tilman. To sever the sacred region from the rebel lands, then pry loose the lands from the influence of Nabu and Marduk by force of arms. Starting in 2047 BCE, the sacred fourth region became a target and a pawn in the Enlilite struggle with Marduk and Nabu. And as both biblical and Mesopotamian texts reveal, the conflict erupted to the greatest international world war of antiquity, involving the Hebrew Abraham. That War of the Kings placed him in center stage of international events. In 2048 BCE, the destiny of the founder of monotheism, Abraham, and the fate of the Anunnaki god Marduk converged in a place called Haran. Haran, the Cavanary, was an important trading center from time immemorial in Haiti, the land of the Hittites. It was located at the crossroads of major international trade and military land routes. Situated at the headwaters of the Euphrates River, it was also a hub of river transportation all the way downstream to Ur itself. Surrounded by fertile meadows watered by the river's tributaries, the Balak and Kabur rivers, it was a center of shepherding. The famed merchants of Ur came there for Haran's wool and brought in exchange to distribute from there Ur's famed woolen garments. Commerce in metals, skins, leather, woods, earthenware, products, and spices followed. The prophet Ezekiel, who was exiled from Jerusalem to the Kabar area in Babylonian times, mentioned Haran's merchants in choice fabrics and embroidered cloaks of blue and many-colored carpets. Haran, the town by that very name, still exists in Turkey near the border with Syria and was visited by me, Zechariah Sitchin, in 1997. It was also known in ancient times as Ur away from Ur. At its center stood a great temple to Nanar Sin. In 2095 BCE, the year in which Shulgi took over the throne in Ur, a priest named Terah was sent to to Haran to serve at the temple. He took along his family. It included his son Abram. We know about Terah, his family, and their move from Ur to Hanan from the Bible. It was with these verses from the Hebrew Bible begins the pivotal tale of Abraham. Called at the beginning by his Sumerian name Abram, his father, we are told earlier, stemmed from a patriarchal line that went all the way back to Shem, the oldest son of Noah, the hero of the deluge. All those patriarchs enjoyed long lives, Shem to the age of 600, his son Arpachshad to 438, and subsequent male offspring to 433, 460 years, 239 years, and 230 years. Nahor, the father of Terah, lived to age 148. And Terah himself, who fathered Abram when he was 70 years old, lived to age 205. Chapter 11 of Genesis explains that Arpachshad and his descendants lived in the lands later known as Semir and Elam and their surroundings. So Abraham, as Abram, was a true Sumerian. Imagine that. That's where do you think the God's chosen people thing comes from, folks? The genealogical information alone indicates that Abraham was of a special ancestry. His Sumerian name, Abram, meant father's beloved, an appropriate name for a son finally born to a 70-year-old father. The father's name, Terah, stemmed from the Sumerian epithet name, Tiru. It designated an oracle priest, a priest who observed celestial signs or received oracle messages from a god, and explained or conveyed them to the king. The name of Abram's wife, Sarai, like Sarah in Hebrew, meant princess. The name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, meant queen-like. Both suggest a royal genealogy. Since it was later revealed that Abraham's wife was his half-sister, the daughter of my father but not of my mother, he explained, it follows that Sarah's mother, was of royal descent. The family thus belonged to Sumer's highest echelons, combining royal and priestly ancestries. Ah, see, that's a key thing to understand about these bloodlines and why they're important. You hear that? The combining of royal and priestly ancestries. So you had the priest class over here and the keepers of the ancient knowledge. And then the royals over here are the blue bloods, and then you put those together, and boom, that's where you set up this hereditary dictatorship, the divine right to rule. Another significant clue to identifying the family's history is the repeated reference by Abraham to himself when he met rulers in Canaan in Egypt. As being a Hebrew, the word stems from the root abor, to come across or to cross, so it has been assumed by biblical scholars that meant that he had come across from the other side of the Euphrates River from Mesopotamia. But I believe that the term was more specific. The name used for Sumer's version of Vatican City, Nippur, is the Akkadian rendering of the original Sumerian name, Nibiru, splendid place of the crossing. Well, that's interesting. Abram and his descendants, who are called in the Bible Hebrews, belong to a family that identified themselves as the Hebrew, Nippurians. That would suggest that Terah was first a priest in Nippur, then moved to Ur, and finally to Haran, taking his family along. By synchronizing biblical, Sumerian, and Egyptian chronologies, we have arrived at the year 2123 BCE as the date of Abraham's birth. The gods' decision to make Nanar, Sin's culture center, Ur, the capital of Sumer, to a throne Ur-Nammu, took place in 2113 BCE. Soon thereafter, the priesthoods of Nippur and Ur were combined for the first time. It's very likely that it was then that the Nippurian priest Tirhu moved with his family, including the 10-year-old boy Abram, to serve in Nanar's temple in Ur. In 2095 BCE, when Abraham was 28 and already married, Terah was transferred to Haran, taking the family with him. It could not have been just a coincidence that it was the very same year in which Shulgi succeeded Ur-Nammu. This emerging scenario is that the movements of this family were somehow linked to the geopolitical events of that era, just like it is now. Indeed, when Abraham himself was chosen to carry out divine orders to leave Haran and rush to Canaan, the great god Marduk took the crucial step of moving to Haran. it was in 2048 BCE that the two moves occurred. Marduk coming to sojourn in Haran, and Abraham leaving Haran for faraway Canaan. We know from Genesis that Abraham was 75 years old, and thus it was 2048 BCE that he was told by God, "Get thee out of thy country and out of thy birthplace and from thy father's house. Leave behind Samir, Nippur, and Haran, and go. Go into the land in which I will show thee." As to Marduk, a long text known as the Marduk prophecy that he addressed to the people of Haran provides the clue confirming the fact and the time of his move to Haran as 2048 BCE. There is no way those two moves could have been unrelated. But 2048 BC was also the very year in which the Enlilite gods decided to get rid of Shulgi, ordering for him the death of a sinner, a move that signaled the end of the let's try peaceful means and a return to aggressive conflict. And there is no way that this too was just a coincidence. No, the three moves, Marduk to Haran, Abram leaving Haran for Canaan, and the removal of the decadent Shulgi had to be interconnected. Three simultaneous and interrelated moves in the divine chess game. And we're going to park it right there for tonight. Wow. Let you absorb all that in. Maybe want to listen to that again. Yeah, powerful stuff right there. And really, I mean, my God, I mean, we're really starting to see, I mean, a lot more filling in the blanks of these blunders. I mean, stuff hadn't changed today, folks. There's a reason for that. I mean, there's just no question that our rulers, our elite, our people who rule our planet are the descendants of these so-called Anunnaki. I mean, otherwise there's just too much evidence. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so much importance placed on these breeding and bloodlines and eugenics. I mean, and to leave that out of the conversation, to not be allowed to talk about that, but to be told that's disinfo, not important, just focus on the banksters, like Jones and others will tell you. I mean, I can't honestly believe that people would allow their minds to be shut off like that. So, like I said earlier in the show, it's going to take a mass awakening. It's going to take people having something that raises their consciousness to the level that can't be controlled anymore. Well, I think that's what we should be putting our focus and our energy on manifesting, don't you? So this doom and gloom into the world horse shit. It only takes a few to make a difference, and you never know, that could be you. You can make a difference at my website, thegoldenrowdy.com. You can chip in and help us out there with the bills and with our 2012 kickoff fundraiser. What's going on right now, thegoldenrowdy.com. Please help us out if you can. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time. You guys have a great one. Take care.